production of Herman Melville and performed by Stephen Collins. The production is generously funded by Cohasset Elder Affairs and Friends of the Paul Pratt Memorial Library. We'll hope you enjoy this one-act, one-man play by the talented Herman Melville. And please turn off your cell phones for the performance. Don't forget.
And I have loved the ocean, loved thee, loved thee. My heart has stopped. I was dreaming of an ocean at war with itself. The battle was brief. The waves fell into darkness. I just turned 72. So this is death. The undiscovered country. My eyes are clear again. My back, I'm no longer in pain. Lizzie strokes my head while Bessie weeps. Lizzie whispers, he's at peace, at last. Her hair once brown that I turned to gray. In the valley of the Typees, naked widows jump up and down to show their grief. Lizzie dons her Boston black. Had I died at sea, they would sew me up, weigh me down, and splash into the blue. Instead, I'm being planted at Woodlawn, next to my sons, Malcolm, who shot himself, Stanwix from tuberculosis. My stone bears vine, quill, and scroll, for I was a writer once, the man who lived with cannibals. A quiet service witnessed by few. Tom's widow, Alan's daughter, Kate a widow herself. Fanny did not attend, nor do I blame her. Mackie knew me when I was golden. Fanny knew only my eclipse and my darkness. There are two things parents should give their children, said Goethe. Roots and wings. I gave mine neither, yet Bessie seemed to like me. Lizzie and her neuralgia, Bessie and her rheumatism, they're like sisters now, monkey rope for life. Down I go into the earth, the worms, not the sharks, shall have me. Lizzie takes down, she dismantles my library. So many books. And I swam through them all. 2 years before the mast, which put me aboard the Acushnet, the divine William, I fed his Leah to my whale, Rabelais, who told the truth and shamed the devil, Brown, who wondered if Christ ever laughed, Kant, who cried, dare to think, remember to live. The Mosses, Aunt Mary's star-crossed gift, they were once my lifeblood, all of them now tombs for words. Of the making of many books there was no end. Lizzie sits at my desk, sorting through papers. Some are placed in a tin, others dropped in a bucket. She takes out Billy Budd and reads the dedication. To Jack Chase, Englishman, wherever that great, places Billy back in the tin. She takes out poems dedicated to her and reads Red Clover. How often would I present you with these roses of the meek? And how I yearly remind you of my finding a certain poem on the 4th day of a certain bridal month, and my widow weeps. To know all is to forgive all, she whispers. Farewell, Elizabeth Knapshaw. Your landlocked heart never sailed with mine. But when you became my mother, I truly loved you, I'll not haunt you. Like Rabelais, I go to seek a great perhaps. Whitman called this island Mannahatta. Mannahatta, where her streets laid you down to wars to join other men. standing where their fathers once stood. They line up like sentinels, these pale creatures, tied to counters, chained to desks, all of them gazing into the blue. Father was an importer, had crossed the ocean many times. He told me of monstrous waves mountain high, of ship masts bending like twigs in a storm, of Liverpool and London. We had furniture made in Europe, paintings too. One was of a whale full of harpoons and 3 boats chasing after it as fast as the men can row. Whaling is but a shadow now. The romance of the sea long departed. But men still come here to dream, thus these wharves shall always be full. New York sheds many skins, but the custom house remains. That and the rats who rule the wharves. 20 years I inspected cargo for $4 a day. Oh, those corrupt times when greased palms and winking eyes decreed what entered New York Harbor. I was true and kept my post when each political change flushed out those Augean stables. I was number 75, and no one knew their fathers had dreamt of my fayaway on her tropical isle. We returned here to Albany after Father went bankrupt in '37. All are buried here now, save Kate, who survives us, and Tom, who sleeps down in Snug Harbor. Father was a Boston Melville of Scottish descent. I thought him the most perfect of creatures. When he died, I sought him in others. Twice I found but lost him again. Father's death set me on my path at 12. Schooling ended, genteel poverty begun. Think not of the bitterness of old age. A boy can feel all that and more when mildew blights his soul, and the very air of paradise can never cause him to bloom. Mama added an E to deflect our shame. In the valley of the Taipes, she'd be on her haunches kneading poe-poe well into old age. But Mama was a lady and did not lift a finger. Instead, we lived on her family's charity till I could bear it no more and ran off to sea. Mama raised her children as Calvinists. How cruel to tell a child he's damned from birth, and his only salvation is to embrace the Christ. But before I could, I questioned his father, who had turned his back on me. Why? I flung again and again to the heavens, each why a harpoon in God's back. Emerson declared evil as the mumps and measles of the world, phase to be outgrown. Hawthorne saw evil for what it was and believed in nothing. I fell in between. I wanted to believe, but my soul could never harbor with what God said to be all merciful, but proved time and again he was not. In Liverpool, I passed a cellar where a mother lay with children at her breast, living bones, barely alive. The street hag said she'd made her bed. The policeman said, "This be none of my business." I stole bread, but those creatures were well beyond food. When next I passed, they were dead and rotting, their bread uneaten. I witnessed 4 men being flogged aboard the United States. Their crime, a drunken brawl ashore. One was a boy, a mere boy named Peter, and he sobbed for mercy. The captain nodded and the cat was swung, and Peter screamed, "My God, my God!" But God did not listen. 11 more strokes scarred that boy for life. I had to deny knowledge to make room for faith, says Kant. Gansevoort, my elbow, was made in our Father's image. He too was beautiful, witty, educated. Mama preferred him over her second son, who was so like her, sturdy, earthbound, the Dutch side, her side of the family. Had Mama smiled on me as she did on Gansevoort, she would have known my need for love was more than matched by the love I had to give. But she gave me sweet Helen, devoted Augusta, lively Kate, saintly Priscilla. I will bless her for that. Alan, my junior, was true head of the family. Oh, I was fond of him, but not of his stuffy, legal world. I skewered it in Bartleby. Mama thought highly of Alan and proved it by dying 2 months after he did. Now she sleeps, her favorites at her side. Sail on, Herman Melville, sail on. My gallant Tom, gone in your prime. Who could have known your noble heart was flawed? You worshipped me, your father, brother, and sailed in my footsteps, working up to captain. Mama was proud, but oh, was I prouder. We had our image taken together. We were truly brothers with our matching beards. And when you died, old sailors lined up in farewell to their governor. Sleep snug in Snug Harbor, my gallant Tom. Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, Concord, Massachusetts. I once wrote to him, the hawthorn is a sweet flower, may it grow in every hedge. But no hawthorn grows on this piece of earth. His wife died in London. An ocean lies between them. Perhaps he waited till they could sail together. Whereas this old spermaceti has left his harem to swim alone. I look back, for the sun is rising. One last time, one last time, one last time. Ah, she blows! And the men at the accoutrement lower away. Picture yourself for the first time in an open boat so slight, 3 men can walk off with it, some 15 miles from your ship, and 100 times as far from the nearest land, giving chase to one of those monsters. Pull, pull, ye bastards, the boat header cries, and you tug with might and main at the oars. Pull, I say, break your lazy backs. The whale is soon ahead of you. Listen to the roar of the waters in his wake, matched by the pounding of your heart. Turn around and snatch a look at him. There he goes, surging through the brine that ripples about his head like the bow of a ship. Stand up and give it to him. The harpooner drops his oar. He snatches his iron. It flies. Then everything, sight and sound, as the whale flails about, then plunges madly ahead, taking you on a Nantucket sleigh ride. But this is nothing. You've just harpooned the beast, now you must kill him. And when at last he turns to fight, he will fight to the death. He staves one boat with the sweep of his flukes. He crunches another to bid men and all. The third boat pierces his mighty heart and he spouts red. And when he rolls over, the battle's done. Ah, you tie the whale to your boat and slowly, painfully row back to the ship, followed by 1,000 fins. The brown shark, the blue, the great white, the tiger, all are coming uninvited to the feast. The whale is chained to the ship. Its blubber is peeled round and round like an orange. The sharks too sink in, roll onto their backs, and scoop out chunks the size of your head. Monkey rope men stand on the whale and spear as many sharks as they can. And when the whale has been stripped of its blubber, its headless trunk bleached white by the sun is released, and the sharks bear it away, joined by screeching birds swooping down for their share, and that great mass of death floats on and on till all are lost in infinity. And the gore and the stink and the smoke when the blubber is rendered down, and the barrels of oil in the hold, where the late whale glides on as before, though he'll not rise again. And you wait for the next. Ah, she blows. Stranded in Hawaii, I signed aboard the United States, sailing for home. I'm assigned to Jack Chase, captain of the Fort Top. Jack is a Briton, tall and well-knit with a clear, open eye, a fine, broad brown and nut brown beard. No man ever had a better heart or bolder. He's loved by the crew, admired by the officers. Even the captain speaks to Jack with respect. Jack knows the verses of Byron, the romances of Scott. He speaks of Don Juan, of Rob Roy, of Macbeth and Ulysses. I think him the most perfect of creatures. When we reach Boston, I kiss that noble hand in farewell. Wherever you may be, Jack, take my best love with you. And may God bless you, wherever you are. I come home from the sea, bearded and burnt. A whale ship, my Harvard, my Yale. Gansevoort, prig that he is, keeps me from mama till I'm shaved and presentable again. But oh, am I different inside. I'm the man who lived with cannibals. How I round my family's eyes with tales from the valley of Taipes. My brother Tom is enchanted and begs me to write them down. I will, I shall. 6 months at sea. Yes, dear reader, as I live. 6 months out of sight of land, cruising after the sperm whale under the scorching sun of the line, tossed about on the billows of the wide rolling Pacific, the sky above, the sea around, and nothing else. It's a cruel life to see. You feel a second flood has come, and you ride an ark of men and rats upon it. Think no more of home. These outcast bastards and illiterates are your family now. And the merciless sun makes the pitch bubble and ooze up from the deck. And Cape winds freeze you down to your marrow. And the maggots multiply in the food. And the roaches swarm everywhere else. And below decks becomes a stinking Sodom where I search for a friend, but find none. And yet there are moments when each dawn comes out of Genesis, and let there be light upon these waters. Or when you pick out bright Centaurus, never to be seen in northern skies, when flying fish leap up into the air, then fall back like a shower of silver. Or being up in the mast with the ship at a plank below, one with the gulls, the clouds, the very sun, most of all the ocean with her shades and shadows, lost dreams and lost men, all wrapped in vast unending silence. And for the first time, I saw the hand, if not the face of God. Oh, this wheel of fortune, which drags us down in order to lift us up. Harper's rejects Taipei, but a Dr. Nichols has read my manuscript, convinces my brother Tom it might get published in England. Tom has been appointed the post of American Secretary, and he takes Taipei off to London with him. He writes, John Murray shall publish my book. I blink stupidly in utter amazement at his letter. And Irving, father of Rip, has read the proofs and recommends it to Wiley and Putnam. Thus Taipei shall be published both here and abroad. Chief Justice Lemuel Shaw was father's dearest friend. He can be fierce on the bench, but has a tender heart in private. When father died, Judge Shaw became our benefactor. I shall dedicate Taipei to him. Like Byron, I wake up to find myself famous. Taipei is the talk of London, followed by the American edition. Mama is of two minds. A scandal of my jumping ship to live with cannibals versus the royalties which start to arrive. She leans towards the latter. I write to my brother Gansevoort, receive no reply. He has died insane in London, truly his father's son. I go down to New York for his remains and I meet Everett Dykink of Wiley and Putnam, a publisher's son. Books were his mother's milk. Dykink, diving duck. I love all men who dive. Everett takes me under his arm. He declares I must join the revolution for an American literature, free from English copyright. Young America, his battle cry. I start writing the sequel instead. But with celebrity come doubters. This typee is but mere fancy. Its author has dreamed his own Robinson Crusoe. But my chummy Green turns up to declare it's all true, for he was Toby, who had also jumped ship. But the doubters are still not satisfied. This sailor writes more like a gentleman than anything else. True, I am a gentleman's son, but at sea, I showed as brown a chest and as hard a hand as any tar yet could tell my tale with clarity and not a little style. Typee is selling on both sides of the Atlantic, which is what matters most. And you owe it all to your brother, says Mama. I am not, never was, nor ever shall be her precious Gansevoort. But when will she realize her precious Gansevoort was never me? Everett leaves Wiley and Putnam to start a new weekly, The Literary World. A wily move indeed. He coaxes, he pleads with me for Omu's first chapters, and I politely decline. Mother England is about to birth it. But young America, he says. Omu quickly goes into a second or third edition, but brings the missionaries down on my head. I wrote what I saw in Tahiti. How the white man did more damage than good to those he calls heathens. He's brought disease and rats and mosquitoes with his God. He's covered their bodies and made them ashamed. He's taken their lands, made them no better than slaves. I was the snake in the valley of the Typees. I would have corrupted by teaching its people to read and write, to think and quarrel and doubt. But I escaped before infecting them. May Cory this very moment be napping neath the palm tree, safe from us white devils. Whenever in Boston, vowed never to wash hers again. No, I did not know that. And Mr. Melville, have you witnessed the practice by which the Typees are said to be famous? No, but I did manage to see some bones. Oh, I see. Does she? The Daily Tribune reports, Mr. Herman Typee Melville has been united in lawful wedlock to a young lady of Boston. The fair forsaken Fayaway will doubtless be suing for breach of promise. The fair forsaken Fayaway will have forgotten her Tomo now, as she needs Poe for her two husbands. Oh God, I feel I'm below decks again, sharing this box with Lizzie, Alan, Sophia, Mama, Helen, Gus, Kate, Priscilla. Alan goes to his downtown office. Tom has gone to sea. I go upstairs to earn my living. Lizzie blends so with my sister she starts to feel neglected. I give her Marty to transcribe, but she can't keep up. I call on Gus, who is swift of pen, and Lizzie goes back to dusting under Mama's baleful eyes. We dress for lunch, we dress for dinner, we dress to make calls, we dress to receive. The land begins to scorch my feet. I escape to Evet's and borrow Brown, Kant, Rabelais, Cervantes, Goethe, Dante, and my brain begins to unfold with Mardi. Yilla was a maiden from Aurelia, the island of delights. To this isle, by some mystical power, she had been spirited from Amma, the land of her nativity. And hardly had the waters of Aurelia washed white her olive skin and tinged her hair with gold, when she was snared in the tendrils of a vine, transformed into one of its blossoms, her soul folded up into its petals. Marty's reception baffles me. Taipei was considered mere fiction. When I chose to fictionalize with Mardi, I'm labeled no writer at all. Evet praises it in his world, but the damage is done. The royalties shall trickle, not flow for Mardi. Evet, however, urges me to continue writing. There are arrows still, he says, in my quiver. I abandon Brown, that cracked archangel, and I begin a nursery tale about a fatherless lad bound for Liverpool. His sole companion, his father's out-of-date travel guide. So vivid now was the impression of his having been here that I felt like running on and overtaking him at the head of Castle Street at the town hall adjoining. But I soon checked myself when realizing he'd gone whither no sun's search could find him on this earth, and I had much ado to keep from tears. Where is the foundling's father hidden? My son, I know not how much he weighs, but he's as lusty as a Caesar, and it takes 3 nurses to dress him. I shall call him Barbarossa or Ferdinand or Bonaparte. Malcolm, says Gus. Malcolm it is. His first words were, "Where'd that old man?" I'm here, Mackie. I'll always be here. Dolt and ass that I am. But until a few months ago, I had not really read the Divine William. He's full of sermons of the mount, but gentle. Aye, gentle as Jesus. And through the mouths of his Hamlet and Lear, he speaks what we know to be true, though it be madness to even think of it. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Oh, this wheel of fortune, which lifts us up in order to drag us down. Again, I'm forced to write about the sea. Taipei and Omu were my wanderings. Red burned my merchant vessel, white jacket my man of war. That leaves the catching and killing of whales. Not fit company for lady to read in beds. My heart's not in it, for blubber is blubber. You can get oil out of it, but the poetry will run as hard as sap from a frozen maple. Oh God, New York was positively an oven in summer. We joined Aunt Mary in Pittsfield. Here she says, giving me a book. Mosses from an old manse. A patch of moss is pasted inside. From Salem, she says. An outing has been planned up Monument Mountain. Evet has been coaxed from Manhattan. Dr. Holmes is here summering. From Boston comes the plumper half of Tigner and Fields. a tall, balding Apollo approaches, and a blue wave rolls over me. For this be Nathaniel Hawthorne, man of the mosses. I passed his farmhouse many times, but never knew he lived there. Talking to him is like wooing a shy maiden, but the divine magnet is upon him, and my metal responds. He'd been called a pleasant writer, but I'd stayed away from his work. But when I read his mosses, I knew him. Beneath his humor, his sunshine lies a blackness. The same blackness from which Shakespeare spun his tales. But the divine William wrote with a muzzle on his soul. His own Elizabethans put it there. He could only speak his truth through his madmen. But no madmen for Hawthorne, no, he writes with the freedom that comes only from knowing his heart, totally unfettered. I know the course, the path his heart has taken. No man can soar to such heights without plunging first to the bottom. Any fish can swim near the surface, but it takes a great whale to go down 5 miles or more, and if he can't find the bottom, no amount of lead in the world can fashion the plummet that will, I think, him the most perfect of creatures. To he who built this farmhouse, could you have known after clearing this land, this vista would be yours? Behold Greylock, with all his hills about him, like Charlemagne among his peers. But there's no piazza, and one must be had. The house is wide, my fortune narrow. On which side should I build? To the east, the hills. Come December, the dawns drape those highlands with red-barred plaids and tartans, but to the north is Charlemagne. To the south, apple trees. The Maytime orchards all in white, their leaves and apples come October, but to the north is Charlemagne. To the west, a rising pasture leading up to the maples. How the greens streak through the browns and grays when spring awakens, but to the north is Charlemagne. I turn over the soil, and I recover arrowheads from the vanished tribe. I christen this my home, Arrowhead. To the north is Charlemagne. 6 miles away is Hawthorne, and the sun is at its zenith. I must start anew. I'll keep my bumpkin, but call him Ishmael. Ishmael, born to wander. Bulkington stood full 6 feet in height with noble shoulders and a chest like a coffer dam. Adjure Bulkington, you'll not be the hero after all. Adjure for now. My whaler must become a democracy. Young America. The Acushnet had only white men. But come aboard the Pequod, you men of red and yellow, brown and black. And God created great whales. The mighty whales which swim in a sea of water and have a sea of oil swimming in them. Mocha Dick was an old bull whale of massive size and strength. From age or freak of nature, he was white as wool. On Tower Hill in London, a crippled beggar holds a painted board showing how he lost his leg. There are 3 boats and 3 whales, and his boat is being crunched by one of the whales. In the lower jaw are 42 teeth of formidable size, but conical in shape. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook? Can you fill his skin with harpoons and his head with fishing spears? I will, I shall. What tune is it you pull 2 men, a dead whale or a stove boat? And Ahab, son of Omri, did evil in the face of the Lord above all that came before him. Ha ha, autumn in the Berkshires. I find myself jaquizing in the woods, the air so ripe and ruddy, 'Tis must be harvest time with the angels. How the reds of the maple contrast with the green of the pine, yet harmonize. Whenever I find myself growing grim about the mouth, whenever it is a damp, drizzly November in my soul, then I count it high time to get to sea as soon as I can. No sooner is ground broken than the neighbors laugh. A piazza facing north. True, the winter winds will pummel me, but I'll walk my piazza as if on deck sailing round Cape Horn. And when August comes and I'm in the shade, I'll pity those in the sun. But man, proud man, his glassy essence like an angry ape, plays such fantastic tricks in high heaven as make the angels weep. Talk not to me of blasphemy, man. I strike the sun if it insulted me. Oh, I have a sort of sea feeling now. The ground is covered smooth in snow. In the mornings when I look out my window, I almost feel as if I'm looking out of the porthole of a ship in the Atlantic. My room seems a ship's cabin. At nights when I awake and I hear the wind shrieking, I almost fancy there's too much sail on the house. I better get on the roof and rig in the chimney. The whale struck the Essex to windward directly under the cathead, stove in her bows, went under the ship, and we saw no more of him. Oh, I need 50 fast riding youths, for Gus now runs the household. Helen can't keep up with me. Lizzie's no housekeeper, and Mama lets her know it, nor is she much of a wife. Always off to Boston to visit her father. Maids are May when they are maids, but the sky changes when they are wives. Aye, sweet William, that they do. The Acushnet was wrecked off St. Lawrence in August. The crew rescued the ship, a total loss. 1,300 barrels in her hold. Less than 300, say, less than 300. That side blow through Mrs. Hawthorne will not do. I am not to be charmed out of my promised pleasure by any of that lady's Syrianisms. You, sir, I hold accountable. The visit in all its original integrity must be made. Come, no nonsense. If you don't, I will send constables after you. Hawthorne presents me with his gables. It surpasses his other work. But something is lacking in the man himself. Speak, thou vast and venerable head. Of all divers thou hast dived the deepest. That head upon which the upper sun now gleams has moved amid this world's foundations, where unrecorded names and navies rust and untold hopes and anchors rot, where in her murderous hold the earth is ballasted with bones of millions of the drowned. Oh, head, thou hast seen enough to split the planets and make an infidel of Abraham, but not one syllable is thine. I come down to New York to slave over the book while the first chapters are being pushed through the press. It's the only way I can finish now. I'm so far behind schedule, and the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. Oh, I hear flattering things about the Gables. The second edition is announced. His portrait by Thompson is on display. What reputation I have is horrible. To go down to posterity as a man who lived with cannibals. What have I done? Had I written my whaling book as planned, I'd be finished now. Instead, this. I come home to recline on the grass and finish the book, reclining upon it. If ever, my dear Hawthorne, in the eternal times that are to come, you and I shall sit down together in some shady little corner of paradise, and if we shall by any means be able to smuggle a basket of champagne there, and strike and click our glasses and heads together till both shall musically ring in concert, then, oh, my dear fellow mortal, how shall we pleasantly discourse upon all things manifold which now so distress us, when all the earth shall be but a reminiscence, yea, its final dissolution in antiquity. Yes. Let us look forward to such things. Stand close to me, Starbuck. Let me look into a human eye. It is better than to gaze into sea or sky, better than to gaze upon God. One eye shut, one eye blinking, Roll on, thou dark and deep blue ocean. 10,000 blubber hunters sweep over thee in vain. Lightning flashes through my skull, my eyeballs ache. My whole beaten brain seems as beheaded and rolling on some stunning ground. The throat is capacious enough to give passage to the body of a man, and I throw Lear down its throat and leap in after him. Blow winds and crack your cheeks. Rage blow, you cataracts and hurricanos. Spout till you have drenched our steeples, drenched the cocks, you sulphurous and thought-executing fires. Vaunt couriers to oak-cleaving thunderbolts, singe my white head, and thou all shaking thunder, strike flat the thick rotundity of the world. Toward thee I roll, thou all-destroying but unconquering whale. To the last I grapple with thee. From hell's heart I stab at thee. For hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee. Sink all coffins and all hearses to one common pool. And since neither can be mine, let me tow to pieces while still chasing you. You damned whale. Thus, I give up the spear. And I alone, only, am escaped to tell thee. I've written a wicked book, but feel spotless as the Lamb. I'm 31 years old. In token of my admiration for his genius, this book is inscribed to Nathaniel Hawthorne. Hawthorne has moved out to Concord away from my tentacles. He writes to me about the whale. He admires portions, but cares not a penny for the book as a whole. His wife understands what I've written, but she also understands him. I promise her, I assure her, my next book shall be a rural bowl of milk, but damning reviews of the whale curdle me. This was to be my masterpiece, not my greatest failure. Now I'll never pay the judge back for Arrowhead. Pierre becomes my revenge, starting with my father. There were rumors after his death, 2 women visiting Uncle Thomas. The younger, my half-sister, born out of wedlock. I never met her, my uncle paid them off, yet she still haunts me. And my perfect father, this too mortal flesh, which melted, resolved itself into a dew, and left us penniless. If the whale was my Lear, Pierre shall be my Hamlet. I plunge even deeper than before, burrowing down through the ocean floor, down to the fiery kingdom. My study is like ice, my fingers are blue. One eye shut while I blink with the other. One candle alone burns at my side. One, for the blood of men is mixed in with the sperm. I don't eat so my family can. When I sleep, I dream of black oceans. The judge's daughter suggests Holmes pay a call. I know why the little doctor has been summoned. Am I going mad? Like my father and my brother. But Herman be a clever one. He swims up and up and up and up to the surface to smile and be a villain. It's like the books, Holmes and I. Holmes declares I'm not mad, merely tired. Holmes is right and wrong. The sharks are few, but have their say. Disgusting, repulsive, French and German decadence. Ever downright hates Pierre, rupturing our friendship. Young America indeed. I write stories so my family can butter their bread. I turn my inner disgust outward with the confidence man, where the devil walks among the fools of the earth. I'm so repulsed by my vision, I send it to Harper's unfinished, it fails. Everything I write fails now. The judge suggests I go abroad for my health. In other words, for everyone else's sanity. That good old man will pay for my trip, though he puts me further in his debt. I'll go to the Holy Land to seek him, but stop first in Liverpool to find the other him. Hawthorne and I, we sit among the dunes, our cigars an excuse for silence. I talk about God. Sooner or later, I will talk about God. I see pity in Hawthorne's eyes. He too must think me mad. I understand him now. He wants to be left alone. Not just by me, but by everybody. He lives at the bottom of the deepest, blackest well, content with his circle of blue above him. Had he not left Berkshire, I would have drowned in that well. Oh, but I had to see him one last time. I'll go to the Holy Land, for my magnet turns to no metal anywhere. Judea is made of stone. Stones are all about you, stony mountains and stony plains, stony fields, stony walls, stony hearts, stony eyes. Jerusalem has the cold gray eye of a cold old man. The holy sepulchre reeks of a charnel house. Turkish policemen smoke outside. I squeeze past the stone where the angel sat into the blazing tomb. I look down upon the glittering slab, and then I file out disappointed. I go away unanswered, nor do I bother to question. For I know now the voice of God is silence. Silence, silence, silence. I've taken to writing poetry. I see mamas look, poems don't sell. My back begins to bother me. Rheumatism. Mackie talks back to his mother. Stanny's bowels are weak. Bessie suffers from allergies. Fanny shuns me. Why couldn't I have beautiful, happy children? War is whispered or shuddered in the streets. Lincoln is elected. South Carolina secedes with more to follow. War is declared. Oh, the wild huzzahs. Militias drill on the green, and then they walk away to cheering crowds. And the young were all elation, hearing Sumter's cannon roar. And they thought how tame the nation in the age that went before. But the elders with foreboding mourned the days forevermore, and recalled the forest proverb, the Iroquois old saw, grief to every gray beard when young Indians lead the war. The bulletin board becomes the town's focus. People push to read the dispatches. Oh, the cheers for those early victories, but with the snow come casualties. And when winter has turned to spring, people have had enough. They don't want to think of skulls lined up like pine cones, or moldy coats filled with bones. The elms that wave on Malvern Hill in prime of morn in May. Recall ye how McClellan's men here stood at bay? Does the elmwood recall the haggard beards of blood? Ah, the sod where thousands meet. Does Malvern wood bethink itself and muse and brood? We elms of Malvern Hill remember everything. But sap the twig will fill, wag the world how it will. Leaves must be green in spring. My brother Alan and I make a trade. Arrowhead for Manhattan. The wife hates Pittsfield winters. I miss Manhattan's energy. What have I to do with Berkshire? Oh, Hawthorne. Been away too long, I didn't recognize her. My Manhattan was still Dutch at heart, concentrated down at the tip. The streets were interlaced fingers with names. Now she pushes north with numbers. I was born on Pearl, I shall dwell on East 26th. Everett and the bookshops remain, but the rest has become war's workshop. Manhattan grunts out rifles, Brooklyn hammers out ships, uniformed men crowd the streets, storefronts become recruiting centers. The streets leading down to the wharves end in charred remains from the draft riots. Oh. The oceans of the world have stopped. Hawthorne has died in his sleep on a trip with his friend Pierce. Should have kept his letters, they might comfort me now. But I burned them back at Arrowhead. I take down a copy of his Mosses, and I read a passage from the Celestial Railroad. There was one strange thing that troubled me amid the occupations or amusements of the fair. Nothing was more common than for a person suddenly to vanish like a bubble and be never more seen again of his fellows. And so accustomed were the latter to this that they went out about their business as if nothing had happened. But it was different with me. Nothing can be finer than that. My battle piece is another failure. Nobody wants war poetry now. Lincoln is dead. The flags are taken down. The cannons wheeled away. The elms of Malvern Hill may remember, but people have had enough. I become number 75 for $4 a day. No! No! No, it was not a suicide. Mackey was cleaning his pistol and it went off. I had locked him out, coming home drunk night after night after night. He wanted to go to sea. I said, no, the sea's not the answer. It's never the answer. He joined the militia instead, strutting in his uniform, brandishing his pistol, out drinking night after night. The wife sat up for him. One night he came home very drunk. He barricaded himself in the room. I heard a loud noise. I broke down the door and I found him pistol in hand, bullet in brain. It was not a suicide. Mackey was cleaning his pistol. He was cleaning his pistol. Oh God, he was cleaning his pistol. His first words were, with that old man, I don't know, Mackey, he sailed away long, long ago in the valley of the Types, in the valley of the Types. My brain is ablaze, writing Chlorel. I stumble through my own holy land, the same dull land which breeds but blues and melancholy. I'm a whirlpool of ink and whiskey, birthing a monster longer than Milton, longer than Homer, dragging Fanny out of her bed to proof the pages. Earn your keep, girl. I'm a voice in the wilderness, fit company for snakes and scorpions. A stone lay there at my feet. I clustered till blood oozed from these nails. I was alone. Alone? Ah, no, not long alone. A spirit entered me. 'Twas he, the tempter. He mocked, why strife? Dost hunger for the bread of life? Thou lackest faith. Faith would be fed. True faith could turn that stone to bread. That stone thou holdest. Harper's publishes Clarel at Uncle Peter's expense. The sharks a few would have their say. Queequeg no care what God made him shark. But to God what made him shark must be one damn engine. Go mad. I cannot. I maintain the perilous outpost of the same. I read in the Academy how the poet Buchanan has sought me out. He found Whitman, but not this Triton who lives in New York. When Lizzie came into her inheritance, this Triton retired from the customs house and from life itself. My appetite is good, though my back is not. I still go for walks, though not as far. I still buy books, I still write but publish privately, and I'm content to be forgotten. I take down a copy of Everett's Cyclopedia published ages ago. I'm represented by Redburn, Everett cared not for the whale. His battle cry, young America, and the battle has been won. We have our own literature with its own voice and culture. Still, I care not for today's writers. My era wrote about the sea, about the forest of the new world. But after the war, we're no longer new, no longer young. Each generation writes what it knows and reads what it wants. Realism, today's battle cry. Enough. I've had my day. Let the realists have theirs. But who in turn shall replace them? I rent a pew in All Souls Church. This be Father's faith more compassionate than Mama's. The Reverend Williams encourages me to seek answers, though I may not find them. That the mysteries of God may remain just that, mysteries. I may be a mystery to God myself, this clay that questions yet clings to him. Over 40 years ago, I gave these words to my father Maple. The ribs and terrors in the whale arched over me a dismal gloom, while all God's sunlit waves rolled by and left me deepening down to doom. In black distress, I called my God when I could scarce believe him mine. He bowed his ear to my complaint. No more the whale did me confine. My song forever shall record that terrible, that joyful hour. I give the glory to my God. His all the mercy and the power. To which I too can now say, Amen. To Jack Chase, Englishman, wherever that great heart may now be, here on earth or harbored in paradise, you are done, Billy Budd. May you live to be published. Prospero breaks his staff, I lay down my pen. I'm sleepy, and the oozy weeds about me drift. I was dreaming of an ocean at war. I'm a beardless boy again. A ship of glass sails toward me. Father brought it home from Europe. It is kept under glass in our parlor. A well-knit man with a nut-brown beard beckons. for the sun is setting one last time. We sail past a whale full of harpoons, and 3 boats chasing after it as fast as the men can row. Recite your Byron, says the captain, and I obey, and I have loved the ocean, and my joy of youthful sports was on my breast to be born like thy bubbles onward. As we near land, the captain smiles and becomes my perfect father, who lifts me up, for I've dwindled down to infancy. And he gives me to my mother, who welcomes me back inside her, where I safely sleep as whales and walruses rush about. And as I dissolve, there are woman sounds. He's at peace at last. Thank you. I need to acknowledge the playwright. His name is Carl Rossi. He's very talented. I've read a lot of biographies of Melville, and I agree with the literary critics that believe that he was probably bipolar. No, I mean the term wasn't even used back in those days, but you know.
It was ADD.
Yeah, you know, he was writing this book, this conventional book about a whale, and then he met this woman, Sarah Moorhead, who lived across in Lenox, and her husband was an industrialist who was away all the time, and whether or not they had an affair, you know, who knows, who cares, but she really talked to him about Shakespeare a lot, and it's true, he had not really read a lot of Shakespeare except perfunctorily. So he started reading, you know, particularly the tragedies, and then he just trashed the book that he had written, you know, like I must start anew, I'll keep my bunk in Macaulay Ishmael. And he just started, and what Carl wanted to convey was the absolute frenzy and the frenetic energy he had during that time of composition of Moby Dick, and I think he succeeds. You know, we went to see a couple of productions of the Belle of Amherst, and you know, I think that succeeds because it doesn't hold up a sign that says, "Okay, audience, here comes the poetry. Get ready for the poetry." Just like I think Carl's piece doesn't say, "Okay, here come the quotations from Moby Dick. Get ready." I think he blends in his own writing very, very adeptly with, you know, with some of the text. I love this piece. I just love doing this. I am emotionally exhausted at the end of it. I mean, really, really tired. But it's a nice tired. Huh? Yeah, someone said, "You're tired. I'm just watching you in the audience, and I'm tired."
I take my siesta now.
Yeah. So thanks for being here, and I wanted to just say, you know, years and years ago, I taught some literature classes here when you didn't have this beautiful new center, you know, and then of course COVID, and I had major heart surgery, like it'll be 3 years this April. But I'm back teaching, and I teach a lot of different literature classes. Next week I start teaching the plays of Arthur Miller at the Concord Council on Aging, the plays of Thornton Wilder at the Action Council on Aging. I teach the poetry of Yeats, I teach the poetry of Frost, Whitman, Mary Oliver, Emily Dickinson. So I spoke to them at the desk, and they said they'd be open to, you know, hiring me to come and teach some classes. So, you know, I say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you say, "Yeah, hire him to come and teach," I'll give you 10%. So anyway, does any,
Poetry is difficult. You gotta learn it when you're a kid.
yeah, what's that?
You gotta learn poetry as a kid to understand.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Because it's scary when you get older.
Well,
You gotta do poetry.
Emily is still scary. No, I will tell you,
Really?
I've only been teaching her for about 4 years. And a retirement community in Concord named Newbury Court, people kept asking for it. And the activities coordinator said, Stephen, my residents keep asking for it. Prepare a class on Emily Dickinson, please. And I said, she intimidates the hell out of me. And she does. I mean, she is not an easy poet. You know, but the more I read, and I read a lot of literary criticism, I feel like I'm a perpetual graduate student. I mean, some of her poetry is just unbelievable. And that whole, like, white dress, wafy little thing, that's such bullshit. You know? No, it is. I mean, it is. She was like truly a feminist before the term was even bandied about.
Do you like Yates?
I love Yeats. Would you like a Yeats poem? Huh?
Yes.
I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows while I have there a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. Their midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always, night and day, I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand in the roadway, or on the pavement gray, I hear it in the deep heart's core. And they've already hired me to do my Irish show here in March. No, honestly, I was talking about when she said you're hired. So in my Irish show, I do Yeats, Joyce, Frank McCourt, Seamus Heaney, St. Bridget. Let me do it's real quick and then I'll let you go. St. Bridget. I'd like to give a lake of beer to God. I'd love the heavenly host to be tippling there for all eternity. I'd love the men of heaven to live with me, to dance and sing. If they wanted, I'd put at their disposal vats of suffering. White cups of love I'd give with a heart and a half. Sweet pitches of mercy I'd offer to every man. I'd make heaven a cheerful spot, for the happy heart is true. I'd make men contented for their own sakes. I'd like Jesus to love me too. I'd gather the people in heaven from all the parishes around. I'd give a special welcome to the women, the 3 Marys of great renown. I'd sit by the men, the women, and God, there by the lake of beer. We'd be drinking good health forever, and every drop would be a prayer. All right. Thank you so much, Cohasset, and I hope to see you again. Oh, you're welcome.